Today, trade war is on. Let's see. So we're, day after Liberation Day, and just want to get a gauge on everyone's reaction on how things are shaking up. What I like to see is just, everyday normal people's reaction, because you see the stuff that's on like the news channel, the main media or talking head, and they just cover it their way. I want to see and just hear from like normal people on what do you guys think about the day after Liberation Day and the effects, because Trump yesterday did it after the markets closed, and there wasn't much of a reaction because the whole day yesterday was heavy. I don't know, you guys felt that it was heavy? I felt that it was heavy because everyone was just like wondering what was going to happen. And oh, hey Jay. And so we're on the real day now, because yesterday was just he made his announcement late. So today is the day that things are starting to, like the reaction day. And I'm trying to think, what did we learn from the trade war? I think the main thing that I learned was how interesting some of the things that you thought were made in America were not. So I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. What's one of the things that I was shocked to find out that comes from another country? Oh, I know. Potash. I mean, I'm not a farmer, so that's not something I even think about, but it's like, I guess it's crucial for farming, and most of it comes from Canada. Like, they don't make it here in America, so I thought that was very interesting. What else did I learn that I thought was very interesting? I know something else that I saw that was very interesting from yesterday. It was how Trump came up with the numbers on the tariffs that other countries are imposing on America. Because I was like, I remember these tariff numbers were not like this. Because he said like China imposed like 60% tariff, so we're gonna do 30% or something like that. And then it confused everybody, because I was confused, because he had like countries that are on there. There was like the UK. He said that they had like 30% tariffs or something, and then people in the UK were like, "What? What are you talking about? Our tariffs on American goods is 1%. Like, what's going on? Where are you coming with these numbers?" And apparently, how he came up with these numbers was he took the country's their trade deficit, and he just divided it by what America like imports from, like, exports over there, and that's how he came up with that percentage. And I think I touched on this before. The issue with a lot of these places, let's just take UK for example, right? There's a trade imbalance. It's because a lot of the stuff that we make here in America, they don't want over there in Europe. Like, we could talk about cars, because I think something that Trump brought up, right, where we get so many, like there's the German cars and there's different cars that we import from Europe, but they don't want our cars. The issue with American cars is that they're not built for Europe. They're too big. Like, if you look at the most popular car sold in America, it's the F-150, I believe, that Ford pickup truck. In Asia and in Europe, that car, that truck, sorry, is too big. You can't drive it on their roads. You need a special license, so that's why they don't import that. Like, it's just common sense stuff like that. What else? The chicken. Okay, so I think there was supposed to be a deal a while back that Europe was supposed to buy American chickens, right? And then, but they don't buy that much American chickens because chickens in America are usually pumped full of hormones and stuff that are not allowed in Europe. So that's what like they can't buy the stuff even if they wanted to. I think that's the issue here. That's why there's a trade imbalance. If you want to fix that trade imbalance, just standardize the stuff. Like that's what they do in Europe. They make stuff that can like be sent all over. So I don't know. That's something that I thought about. The first thing when I found out how he came up with those tariff numbers, that's literally the first thing that popped in my head was we don't make stuff for the other countries. That's why they don't buy it. Or what else? There's there's even the cereal. In America we use dye, like the food coloring and like food additives that aren't allowed in some other countries. So of course they're not gonna buy our version of like Fruit Loops or whatever, because those chemicals aren't allowed over there. So that's why they have those trade imbalances. So I don't know. That's something that I was thinking about. What else? If you guys have anything that you found out this trade war that you thought that was very interesting, let us know. We'll make some comments on it. Because I think there's the other thing is that the idea is to bring back manufacturing to America, and I touched on this a while back too. Is that is not a short. That's a long-term project, because these factories and all this stuff takes a long time to build. Like I always think back to that this documentary that I saw on Netflix. This is a long time ago, and I've talked about it before, but it just shows you, to me, when I saw it, was the difference in work culture from here and in other countries. So I remember this documentary came out. It must have came out after. It must have came out. I know it came out after Obama was not president anymore. I just don't know when it came out. But it was about this windshield glass factory in Detroit, and the factory closed down. And this Chinese billionaire business guy bought the factory, and he reopened it to remake glass, right? And he brought in, like Chinese managers and foremen and everything, but he rehired all the American workers that were there before, because you gotta hire local workers. It's part of the deal. And I always remember the scene where they had an issue with one of the conveyor belts. And remember, this is a windshield glass factory. They had an issue with one of the conveyor belts, and they were going to shut down the conveyor belt to fix the clog or whatever, right? And the minute they shut it down, the Chinese foreman got so mad. He was like, "What are you doing? Why is the machine off?" And then one of the workers was like, "Oh, there's a problem up there. We have to fix it." He's like, and the Chinese foreman was like, the factory conveyor belt never turns off, ever. And then he just had somebody run up the conveyor belt while it's running and just fix the clog. I mean, it literally just took them like 2 minutes to fix it. I think they just had to take something off or kick something off. And it was like that. He's like, "See, it only took you guys a few seconds to fix it, and nobody got hurt." But I'm bringing this up because that's a difference in manufacturing done in America and manufacturing done overseas. Over there, they don't give a damn, about safety and whatnot. So I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to bring back manufacturing when that's the standard overseas. I don't know, but deep down, it would be great to make stuff in America again. If you guys don't know, I make stuff in my garage. So I would love to see more stuff made in America. That would be great. That would be excelente, But I just don't see Because stuff like this gets done over years. A factory itself takes at least 5-6 years to get built. So that means we're gonna suffer through 5 to 6 years of doing this. And then you gotta think, even if they build it in America, right? Because of how things are more expensive over here in general, the prices are never gonna go back to what they were. Ever, 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 ever. So, I don't know. That's just what I think. But I find it more interesting though about the stuff that gets made overseas and you just never think about. Like I said, like the potash fertilizer. That is just something that never crosses my mind. Maybe because I'm not a farmer, and it's I would believe it gets used in almost all the farms. So that's very interesting. Let's see. Twitch limit. Sorry, I'm on the road. I have to just glance. So basically, I just glanced at your message. It said that you're glad you're willing to pay the higher price as long as manufacturing comes back. I agree with that. I like that. If I could, I do try to buy American-made stuff. The issue that I see with that plan is I'm pretty sure there's going to be some greedy company out there that is going to find a workaround all this. I mean, that's literally what they do all the time. They're going to find a way to make everything overseas or whatever, and then bring it here. There's that whole thing where they make something overseas and then they assemble it, here. There's that workaround. Or what a lot of people in China or just overseas are doing? They're sending their stuff to other countries that don't have the high tariffs, and then that country imports it in. That's a workaround that a lot of companies are doing. So because I have some friends and they have companies and we import and export stuff all the time. That's one workaround that they did earlier, but now that Trump did 10% across the whole board, you can't really do that as much. I saw that there's a coverage that there are islands with no people at all, but they count as separate countries, but they don't have any inhabitants at all. They're just like animals on there. That they got hit with 10% tariffs. But okay, here's what I'm thinking when I heard that story, right? So I think in China, right, it's 30% tariffs, right? What if you just send all your stuff to one of those island countries, right? You know how China has the One Belt Initiative or the Pearl Road, whatever they're calling it, initiative, where they basically invest into another country's infrastructure, and it's usually like ports and docks and warehouses and whatnot for them to move goods around. Whenever they go to one of these islands and they just like give a penguin, because I think one of the islands they said that it's just inhabited by a bunch of penguins. They just give the penguin some shiny rocks and they build a giant dock on there. Like a port dock. And in exchange, they give the penguins like shiny pebbles, right? And then now they have this giant dock, and then they send their goods over there, and then they put like a sticker on there. Like let's say, just take iPhones for example, right? They send all their goods to this island with penguins with new shiny rocks, and they have this giant port dock, and then it gets there, and then they just put like another sticker on there and just say, so it says it's manufactured there now, like it's an iPhone, and they just put the iPhone sticker on there, and then they send it out, and now it says country of origin or country where it's made is this penguin island. And they're like, okay, you only need to pay 10%. I don't know. I just thought that was interesting. What else that is made outside that you always thought that was made here? I mean, there's the obvious stuff like textiles and all that stuff. All that stuff got sent out a long time ago. But I guess it also makes one thing I also find very interesting is that the tariffs also show you at least Trump's rates. It shows you who, because of the way how he did it, it shows you how important I guess those areas are in terms of manufacturing or getting products into America. So because one of the countries that didn't get hit at all, barely, was Turkey. And Turkey actually has real tariffs on American goods. Like, not this fake, the fake numbers that Trump's throwing out there. They have real tariffs. But they didn't get hit by like the 30-20%. I believe, someone fact check me on this later on, but I believe they just got hit by the base 10%. It's because we don't get a lot of stuff from Turkey, and they don't get anything from us. So on paper, based on his calculation on how the trade imbalances worked out, Turkey is fine. But if you actually look at it, they have tariffs on American goods, like real tariffs. So I thought that was pretty interesting. So what you could take away from the numbers that he had, if you guys saw the presser, he had like a poster and it had like the different numbers and whatnot. Is you can see where we get our goods from. So you can see it was like 60% China. So China's a big player in that, and then it was like 30-40% Africa. So that means we get a lot of stuff from Africa. And Vietnam was a big one, which makes sense. I don't know if you guys know, but I want to say 10 years ago or more, I was working in some kind of business thing, and I remember hearing from like these Chinese investors that this was during the height of made in China stuff, right? No one talks about it as much anymore, but this was during the height of made in China stuff. They were saying that made in China was actually getting expensive, and it's because everything was made in China, and they're all very competitive now. And one thing about how they ran everything is that they got very efficient about making stuff. At a certain point, you were like, you want your stuff actually made in China because they actually have experience making the stuff. See, one thing about bringing manufacturing back to America is that we don't have the experience making stuff anymore. You know what I'm trying to say? The work ethic and like quality controls. The quality control is probably still there because we love double checking everything, but speed and work ethic is not there. Like making sure that you're doing the best that you can possibly do. I don't know if you guys understand what I'm trying to say there, but so they were saying that these Chinese investors, they were saying that they're actually moving all their manufacturing out to Africa, Vietnam, other countries. Like, you think about it, you're contracting them to be made in China, but they're actually trying to subcontract that out to be made in other countries because their labor is starting to get expensive, because as they get more skilled, they demand more payment, right? So they were also in this problem where they were looking for cheap labor. So that's where you see Africa and Vietnam as big exporters of stuff now, because they were not as skilled as the Chinese labor at making stuff, and then they had to be trained, and then so a lot of stuff gets made in Vietnam, Africa. Like, for example, if you look at a lot of clothes now, a lot of clothing is actually made in Vietnam, or where's that other place? I know if you buy clothes from what's that, Banana Republic, I believe most of their clothes are made in Vietnam. But there's another place that they use. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. I would love to hear from you guys. I gotta get going. I'm not where I'm supposed to be. So see you later.